Jin-Woo didn't know what killed him this time. One moment he stood in the shattered ruins of Seoul, the monarch of destruction's final attack tearing through dimensional barriers as Jin-Woo's daggers pierced its heart. The next, reality fractured like glass. Not the controlled rupture of shadow exchange, this was violent, fundamental. The laws of physics screaming as something vast and incomprehensible dragged him sideways through existence itself. He hit ground hard enough to crater dirt. His system flickered, error messages cascading across his vision before stabilizing. Status confirmed, moderate damage, already regenerating. Jin-Woo rolled to his feet, daggers materializing in his hands as he assessed. The sky was wrong. Massive ships, kilometers long, smooth purple hulls, hung in atmosphere like predatory gods. The lances of superheated plasma rained downward in geometric patterns, turning forests to ash, cities to glass. The heat washed over him even from this distance. The light was blinding, and the screaming, human screaming, cut short as the fire found them. Jin-Woo's jaw tightened. New world, alien invasion, genocide in progress. His system chimed. Emergency quest detected. Survive. Unknown hostile environment. Bonus objective, eliminate threats. Penalty for failure, death. Jin-Woo almost laughed. Even here, wherever here was, the system adapted. Fine. He'd done this before, thrown into hell, forced to claw his way out. The rules changed, but the answer stayed the same. Get stronger. Survive. Win. A formation of aircraft screamed overhead, angular insectoid things that didn't move like human jets, and they banked toward a cluster of fleeing civilians 300 meters north. Jin-Woo's enhanced perception tracked their weapons charging plasma building and ventral cannons. He moved. The distance vanished in seconds, his speed carving contrails through smoke-choked air. Jin-Woo hit the lead aircraft from below, daggers punching through hull plating like paper. The alien craft detonated in a bloom of purple fire. He kicked off the explosion, catching the second with a lateral strike that sheared its wing clean off. The third tried to evade. Too slow. Jin-Woo landed on its hull, ripped the cockpit open, and came face to face with something that definitely wasn't human. Split-jaw mandibles. Reptilian eyes, ornate armor crackling with energy shields. The alien pilot snarled something in a language Jin-Woo didn't recognize, fumbling for a sidearm. Jin-Woo's dagger opened its throat. The body slumped. The aircraft spiraled downward. Jin-Woo leapt clear, landing in a crouch as the wreckage carved a burning scar across scorched earth. His system chimed again. Elite miner defeated. Would you like to extract shadow? Jin-Woo froze. He stared at the alien corpse sprawled in the wreckage, its purple blood pooling beneath shattered armor. His shadow extraction worked on any defeated enemy. He'd raised humans, monsters, even monarchs. But this... He reached out, feeling the familiar pull of death's boundary. The shadow responded. Black smoke erupted from the corpse, coalescing into a shape that mirrored the alien's form. 7 feet tall, mandibles frozen in a silent snarl, armor intact but rendered in pure shadow. It knelt immediately, awaiting command. Ida extraction successful. Elite miner added to shadow army. Jin-Woo stared at his first alien shadow soldier. Then the ground shook. A full formation emerged from the tree line. 24 of the aliens, same species as his new shadow, advancing in precise tactical formation. Their armor bore different markings, gold inlays, energy shields shimmering violet. Professional soldiers, experienced. The leader barked orders in that harsh, guttural language, and the formation split into fire teams. They'd seen him kill their aircraft. They knew he was a threat. Good. Jin-Woo called his full shadow army forward. 8,000 soldiers erupted from his shadow, flooding the scorched landscape in a tide of darkness. Knights in full plate, ants the size of bears, high orcs wielding cleaver-sized blades, and hundreds of elite soldiers from his world's S-rank dungeons. The aliens hesitated, their disciplined formation wavering. "Kill them," Jin-Woo said quietly. "Leave the bodies intact." His army surged forward. The aliens opened fire, not bullets but superheated plasma that melted stone and vaporized flesh. Jin-Woo's shadows ignored wounds that would drop humans, their immortal forms absorbing fire as they closed distance. The first alien line shattered in seconds. Energy swords flashed, cutting through shadow soldiers that simply reformed. Plasma grenades detonated, scattering shadows that flowed back together like liquid night. Jin-Woo walked through the center of the carnage untouched. An alien warrior, bigger than the rest, armor gleaming with gold filigree, charged him directly, twin energy blades igniting with white-hot fury. Fast, yet skilled. It moved like a master swordsman, blades weaving a pattern designed to overwhelm and dissect. Jin-Woo caught both strikes on his daggers, the impact cracking earth beneath his feet. The alien's eyes widened behind its helmet. Jin-Woo smiled. Then he moved at full speed, 3 strikes. The first shattered the alien's shield. The second carved through chest armor. The third took its head. The body hit ground before the head stopped rolling. Elite Major defeated all around him. His shadow army finished the slaughter. 24 alien corpses, 24 extraction opportunities. Jin-Woo raised them all. The newly born shadows rose in formation, energy swords still ignited, armor pristine in shadow form. Jin-Woo studied them carefully. Soldiers from an advanced civilization, equipped with energy weapons and personal shielding. A disciplined, lethal, perfect. One of the massive ships overhead adjusted position, angling toward his location. Scanning him probably, deciding whether he was worth the effort to crush personally. Jin-Woo looked up at the kilometer-long warship and felt something he hadn't experienced since defeating the monarchs. Anticipation. This world had thrown him into a war. Fine, he'd end it, one shadow at a time. Before we continue this story, if you're enjoying this Halo solo leveling crossover, hit that like button and subscribe. We're exploring what happens when Jin-Woo's shadow army meets the Covenant's greatest warriors. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when he boards his first Covenant capital ship. Now let's get back to the fight. The plasma lance struck 3 seconds later, turning half a square kilometer into molten glass. Jin-Woo stood in the center of the impact crater, armor smoking, regeneration already closing burns. He looked at his 24 new alien shadows. Then he looked at the ship that fired. "Take me there," he commanded his shadows. They obeyed. The Covenant CCS-class battlecruiser. Unrelenting devotion hung in low orbit above Harvest's burning surface, its crew confident in their divine mandate. Shipmaster Thel Vadami, not yet the disgraced arbiter he would become, watched his tactical display with satisfaction as plasma lances systematically glassed another human settlement. "The profits will be done," he murmured. His sensor operator's mandibles twitched nervously. Shipmaster, anomalous reading on the surface, energy signature inconsistent with human technology. Elaborate? Unknown contact has breached atmosphere. Velocity increasing, trajectory. The operator's voice climbed an octave. "Shipmaster, it's targeting us directly." Thel spun toward the view screen. A black mass rose from the planet's surface like a swarm of locusts, thousands of individual contacts moving in perfect coordination. At their center, a single humanoid figure surrounded by what his sensors classified as impossible. Creatures that registered as dead tissue but moved with lethal purpose. "Evasive maneuvers, all weapons." The black swarm hit his ship's hull. Jin-Woo's shadows tore through the destroyer's ventral armor like claws through silk. High orcs ripped plasma conduits free, shadow knights carved through bulkheads. The ant colony found the ship's engineering section and began systematic dismantling. Jin-Woo himself rode the lead wave, daggers carving entry points as his enhanced strength peeled ship armor away in meter-wide sections. Gravity shifted as he breached the interior. Artificial atmosphere rushed outward. Jin-Woo ignored it. His constitution didn't require conventional breathing anymore. His shadows needed nothing. The first Covenant response team died before they understood what killed them. Jin-Woo blurred through the corridor, daggers finding throats, hearts, split-jaw mandibles. Purple blood painted walls. His system chimed constantly. Elite Miner defeated ×3. Grunt defeated ×12. Jackal defeated ×7. He extracted them all. The newly raised shadows turned immediately on their former comrades. Grunts in methane tanks fired plasma pistols into their own squads. Jackals used point defense gauntlets to slaughter their shield brothers. Elites wielded energy swords against those who'd fought beside them minutes ago. The Covenant soldiers broke, not from casualties. Their faith demanded they embrace death. And they broke because their dead rose as abominations, their sacred forms twisted into mockeries that served a human demon. Jin-Woo walked through the chaos untouched, heading toward the bridge. Shipmaster Thel Vadami met him in the primary corridor with 20 of his best warriors. His personal honor guard, zealot-class elites in gold armor, each a veteran of dozens of campaigns. They formed a firing line, energy swords ignited, plasma rifles charged. "Demon!" Thel roared in his language. Jin-Woo's system auto-translated now, adapting to local linguistics. "You defile our fallen. You spit upon the Forerunner's legacy. I will send you to—" Jin-Woo moved. The first zealot died without blocking a single strike. The second managed to raise his sword before Jin-Woo's dagger punched through his shields and helmet both. The third, fourth, and fifth fell in the time it took their leader to finish his sentence. Thel attacked with everything he had: decades of combat experience, augmented speed, religious fury. His energy sword traced patterns that would bisect most opponents. Jin-Woo blocked each strike casually, studying the alien's technique with cold efficiency. "You're skilled," Jin-Woo said in perfect translation, his system bridging the language gap. "But you're not strong enough." He disarmed Thel with a wrist lock that shattered bone, caught the falling energy sword and drove it through the shipmaster's chest in a single fluid motion. Thel Vadami slumped, gasping, his shields flickering out. His honor guard lay dead around him. The human demon loomed above, expression empty of mercy or hatred, just cold calculation. "Rise," Jin-Woo commanded. Elite zealot ×20 defeated. Shipmaster Thel Vadame defeated. Extract shadow. 21 shadows rose from their corpses, the zealots in their gold armor, energy swords still burning in shadow form, and Thel himself now a shadow commander, his tactical mind intact. His combat skill preserved, his free will completely erased. Jin-Woo looked at his new elite guard. "Clear the ship. Kill everyone. Extract the valuable ones." They obeyed without hesitation, spreading through the destroyer like a plague. 30 minutes later, Jin-Woo stood on the bridge of his first Covenant warship. Every member of the original crew had been killed and extracted. Shadow grunts manned plasma batteries. Shadow jackals monitored sensors. Shadow elites commanded fire teams. And Shadow Shipmaster Thel Vadami stood at the navigation console, awaiting orders. Jin-Woo studied the tactical display. More Covenant ships in orbit, dozens of them. A full cleansing fleet dedicated to glassing harvest. His system chimed. Quest updated, survive. Bonus objective complete, eliminate threats. New objective, conquer. Jin-Woo smiled. "Take us to the next ship," he ordered his shadow shipmaster. The unrelenting devotion, now crewed entirely by the dead, accelerated toward its sister vessels. Captain Jacob Keyes stood on the bridge of the UNSC frigate Commonwealth, watching his tactical display with growing disbelief. "Confirm that reading," he ordered quietly. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Dominique, didn't look up from her console. "Confirmed, sir. Covenant destroyer Unrelenting Devotion has engaged 3 of its own vessels. Plasma torpedoes, energy projectors, full combat engagement. The Covenant is fighting itself." Keyes leaned forward, studying the data streams. The Commonwealth had limped into Harvest System on emergency slipspace, her Shaw Fujikawa drive half destroyed, expecting to find the planet fully glassed. Instead, they'd emerged to find a Covenant cleansing fleet in complete disarray. Life signs on the Devotion? "That's the strangest part, sir." Dominique highlighted the biometric scan. "It reads as entirely Covenant, elites, grunts, jackals. But their IFF tags are dead, and they're fighting with perfect coordination against ships broadcasting active Covenant identification codes." "A mutiny?" "Mutiny implies political motivation, sir. This is systematic slaughter." Keyes watched as the rogue destroyer flanked a Covenant corvette, fired plasma torpedoes into its engines, then launched what appeared to be boarding craft. Dozens of them, moving with insect-like coordination. The corvette's distress signals cut out 12 minutes later. Then it turned its weapons on another Covenant ship. "Sir," Dominique's voice sharpened. "New contact. Single humanoid exiting the Devotion via external breach. He's... Jesus Christ, he's spacewalking without a suit." Keyes grabbed the binoculars, he focusing on the impossible figure drifting between warships. Human male, black armor that didn't match any UNSC specification, surrounded by a swarm of... "Are those corpses?" Dominique whispered. They were. Hundreds of them moving with purpose, carrying what looked like Covenant weapons. Dead elites wielding energy swords. Dead grunts clutching plasma pistols. All surrounding a single human who moved through hard vacuum like it was a minor inconvenience. The figure landed on a Covenant frigate's hull and began carving through armor plating with glowing daggers. "Get me a firing solution," Keyes ordered. "Whatever that is, it's not ours. And anything that scares the Covenant that badly..." "Sir, the Covenant fleet is retreating. Full burn emergency slipspace calculations. They're abandoning Harvest." Keyes stared, and the Covenant didn't retreat, ever. Their religious mandate demanded complete human extermination, even at catastrophic cost. He'd watched them glass planets while their ships burned around them, singing hymns as they died. But they were running now. Running from one human and an army of the dead. "Pursuit course," Keyes ordered. "I want to know what the hell we just witnessed." They found him on Harvest's surface 3 hours later, standing in the center of a graveyard. Keyes led the ground team personally, 2 squads of Marines, full combat loadout, weapons trained on the figure who didn't seem to notice their approach. The man stood among hundreds of corpses, both human and Covenant, but he wasn't looting or desecrating, he was collecting. As Keyes watched, the man touched a dead elite, and black smoke erupted from the body, and the smoke formed into a perfect shadow copy of the alien, which immediately knelt before its creator. "Target acquired," Sergeant Johnson barked. "Hands where we can see them now." The man turned slowly. Young, maybe mid-20s, East Asian features, eyes that held something ancient and cold despite his apparent age. His armor was pristine despite the carnage around him, and those daggers at his belt seemed to drink light. "Human," the man said in perfect English. "Survivors?" "We're asking the questions," Johnson snapped. "Identify yourself. What the hell are you, and what did you do to the Covenant?" The man's expression didn't change. My name is Jin-Woo. I killed them, then I raised them, now they're mine. That's impossible, Keyes said, stepping forward. No human has that capability, and no human has ever made the Covenant retreat. What are you, some kind of insurrectionist bioweapon? Jin-Woo's gaze shifted to Keyes, and the captain felt ice crawl down his spine. Those weren't human eyes anymore. They were Predator's eyes, completely calm, calculating threat assessment and dismissing it. I'm not from your world, Jin-Woo said simply. I don't know how I got here, but I'm here now and there's a war happening. I don't like genocide. He gestured at the glassed landscape. So I'll stop it. You'll stop? Keyes almost laughed. Son, humanity is losing this war. We've lost dozens of colonies, billions dead. The Covenant has superior technology, superior numbers, and religious fanaticism driving them to exterminate us completely. One man, no matter how impressive, can't. Watch me. The shadows rose. Thousands of them, eye flooding out from Jin-Woo's position like a tide. Covenant elites in full armor, grunts in methane packs, jackals with energy shields. They formed ranks behind Jin-Woo with military precision awaiting orders. Every Marine raised their weapon, Johnson's jaw clenched. Sir, permission to... Hold fire, Keyes ordered quietly. His tactical mind was racing. Mr. Sung, I think we need to have a longer conversation, preferably somewhere that isn't a mass grave. Jin-Woo studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Your ship? My ship. The interrogation lasted 6 hours. ONI arrived 4 hours in. The Office of Naval Intelligence had many facilities, but the one they brought Jin-Woo to didn't officially exist. Deep under Reach's northern polar cap, Section 3 maintained black sites for threats that fell outside conventional military classification. Jin-Woo sat in the interrogation room uncuffed because the 4 attempts to restrain him had ended with broken restraints and unconscious guards. His shadow army waited in his shadow. He'd dismissed them to avoid unnecessary conflict, but everyone in the facility knew he could summon thousands of alien warriors in seconds. The door opened. A woman entered, 50s, professional, eyes like a shark's. Behind her, a holographic avatar flickered into existence. A man in a naval uniform, middle-aged, carrying himself with absolute authority. Mr. Sung, the woman said, her sitting across from him. I'm Agent Veronica Dare, ONI Section 3. This is Admiral Preston Cole, commander of the UNSC battle group currently defending the outer colonies. Jin-Woo nodded politely. You want to know what I am and whether you can control me. Dare didn't blink. Direct, I appreciate that. Yes. I can't be controlled, Jin-Woo said simply. Your restraints don't work. Your weapons won't kill me. I can't hack my system. He tapped his temple. Because it's not technology. It's something else. Cole's hologram leaned forward. What's your objective, Mr. Sung? What do you want? To go home, Jin-Woo said immediately. I don't belong in this universe. I was fighting a different war when something pulled me here. I want to find a way back. And until then, Jin-Woo met the Admiral's gaze. Until then, I don't like watching civilizations get exterminated. Your Covenant is conducting genocide. I've fought monsters before. I'll fight these too. Dare pulled up a holographic display. In the past 6 hours, you've killed an estimated 4,000 Covenant soldiers and raised them as your shadow army. You've captured 1 destroyer and 3 corvettes. You've caused the first recorded Covenant tactical retreat in human history. She paused. You understand why that makes you simultaneously humanity's greatest asset and our greatest threat. You're afraid I'll turn on you. Wouldn't you be, in our position? Jin-Woo considered that. Fair point. I have no interest in fighting humans. My enemy is the Covenant. They started this war, I'll finish it. Admiral Cole's expression shifted. Not quite hope, but something close. Mr. Sung, humanity is losing. Badly. We're outgunned, outnumbered, and out-teched. Every engagement costs us ships we can't replace. The Covenant finds our colonies faster than we can evacuate them. At current attrition rates, we have maybe 20 years before Earth itself is discovered and glassed. You want my help? We want to offer an alliance, Cole corrected. You operate under UNSC Tactical Command. We provide intelligence, logistics, fleet support. Together we turn the tide. Jin-Woo shook his head. No. Dare's hand moved toward her sidearm. Cole's hologram flickered. Explain. I don't operate under anyone's command, Jin-Woo said calmly. I've fought alone before, I'll fight alone now, but... He raised a hand before Dare could interrupt. I'm not your enemy. I'll destroy Covenant forces wherever I find them. Humanity benefits from that regardless of whether I take your orders. That's not sustainable, Cole argued. You're one man. Even with your shadow army, you can't be everywhere. The Covenant has thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, an industrial base spanning dozens of worlds. Then I'll start with the ships I can reach, Jin-Woo said. Every Covenant vessel I capture becomes mine. Every soldier I kill becomes my soldier. I don't need your logistics. I store supplies in dimensional space. I don't need your fleet. I'm building my own from captured ships. He leaned forward. What I need is information. Where are the Covenant fleets? Which colonies are under attack? Where are their shipyards, their command structures, their leadership? Dare and Cole exchanged glances through the holographic link. Isha, you want to wage a one-man war, Dare said slowly. Using Covenant resources against them, turning their own soldiers into your army. Yes. That's... Cole paused. That's the most strategically viable asymmetric warfare doctrine I've ever heard. It completely bypasses our industrial limitations. Every Covenant casualty becomes a human asset. The mathematics is... He trailed off, calculating. Mr. Sung, if you can maintain this operational tempo, you could shift the strategic balance in months. I can maintain it, Jin-Woo confirmed. I don't need sleep, I don't tire. My shadow army doesn't require food, water, or morale maintenance. And every battle makes me stronger. Dare's expression remained skeptical. And you expect us to just let you operate independently? And provide intelligence without command authority? I expect you to be pragmatic, Jin-Woo said. You can't control me. You can't stop me. You can either work with me or stay out of my way. But the Covenant fleet that glassed Harvest is regrouping. I'm going after them, with or without your information. Silence filled the room. Finally, Admiral Cole spoke. Agent Dare, your assessment? Dare studied Jin-Woo for a long moment. He's telling the truth. He genuinely doesn't want to fight us, and honestly, sir, we don't have the assets to stop him if he decides to go rogue. Cole nodded slowly. Mr. Sung, I can't offer you formal alliance without UNSC High Command approval. But I can offer informal cooperation. We share intelligence. You hit Covenant targets, and we stay out of each other's way. And if I accidentally save some UNSC colonies in the process, Jin-Woo asked, then we're grateful. Cole's hologram smiled grimly. Welcome to the war, Mr. Sung. Try not to scare the Covenant so badly they stop running and start glassing planets faster. Jin-Woo stood, his shadow army rippling at the edge of perception. They should be scared. What they did to Harvest... His voice went cold. I'm going to do to their entire fleet, one ship at a time. He walked toward the door. It opened automatically, guards stepping back nervously. One more thing, Cole called. What do we tell the rest of the fleet? How do we explain you? Jin-Woo paused at the threshold. Tell them the Covenant has a new problem. Tell them humanity has a ghost. Even tell them every alien who dies fighting me will rise to fight for them. He disappeared into shadow, leaving Dare and Cole staring at empty space. God help us, Dare muttered. We just gave intelligence access to something we can't control. God help the Covenant, Cole corrected. They're about to discover what true fear looks like. The High Council of Concordance convened aboard High Charity, the Covenant's holy city station, in emergency session. The three hierarchs, Truth, Regret, and Mercy, sat upon their gravity thrones while Sangheili honor guards lined the chamber walls. The air smelled of incense and barely suppressed panic. Explain, the Prophet of Truth demanded, his aged voice carrying weight that made even veteran shipmasters flinch. How a single human caused 3 fleets to retreat from a glassing operation. Shipmaster Urtas Vadame, scarred, pragmatic, one of the few to survive early human engagements, stood at the chamber's center. Holy hierarchs, this was no ordinary human. Our warriors report a demon that walks through vacuum, commands the dead, and turns our own soldiers against us. A shipmaster Thel Vadame engaged it directly aboard unrelenting devotion. His entire honor guard was killed. The ship was captured. All hands now serve it. Impossible, the Prophet of Regret hissed. The Forerunners blessed only the Covenant with resurrection protocols preserved in ancient texts. This is not Forerunner technology, Vadame interrupted, then immediately lowered his gaze at his own audacity. Forgiveness, hierarchs. But I witnessed the abomination personally through combat recordings before the fleet retreated. This human wields power that defies our understanding. It does not raise corpses through technology. It commands death itself. The Prophet of Mercy's chair drifted forward. Then it is a demon, a test from the Forerunners to strengthen our faith. Or a weapon, Truth mused quietly. The humans are weak, in their technology primitive. If one possesses such power, they must have found a Forerunner artifact. Or, he left the implication hanging. If humans could activate Forerunner technology, it undermined the entire religious foundation of the Covenant. The Great Journey required that only the Covenant, specifically its leadership, could access the sacred works. A human wielding such power threatened everything. The demon must be destroyed, Truth declared, immediately. Absolutely, its very existence is heresy. We deployed battle groups, Vadame reported. It captured them. We sent zealot strike teams. They never returned, or worse, they returned as shadow servants. Holy hierarchs, this enemy grows stronger with every engagement. It learns, it adapts, and it turns our strength against us. Then we send something it cannot turn, Truth said coldly. Something whose failure brings honor, not shame. Every Sangheili in the chamber understood immediately. An arbiter, Regret breathed. Yes, perfect. The arbiter, disgraced Sangheili given one final chance at redemption through suicidal missions. Stripped of name, identity, rank. Sent to die with purpose so their shamed bloodlines could be cleansed. The Covenant had 7 awaiting judgment. Orna Fulsumi, Truth commanded, summon him. The arbiter knelt in chains, his armor stripped, his family name revoked. Orna Fulsumi, formerly a fleet master who'd lost an entire battle group to human tactical superiority, waited for death. He'd failed the Covenant. The only question remaining was how his execution would proceed. The council chamber doors opened. They dressed him in the ancient armor, silver and gold, ceremonial but functional, bearing the marks of 24 previous arbiters who died wearing it. They placed the energy sword in his hand, a blade that had tasted human blood for 3,000 years. You are the arbiter, Truth intoned. Your shame is forgotten, your honor potentially restored. You will face the defiler, the human demon who corrupts our dead. You will kill it or die trying. There is no third option. Orna, no, the Arbiter now, bowed deeply. I understand, Holy Hierarch. Where shall I find this demon? It hunts our fleets in the outer colonies, Vadumi reported. Last sighting was near Arcadia, commandeering a carrier group. It seems to prefer capturing ships intact, using them to assault others. Our patterns suggest it's heading toward the forest moon of Heian, Truth finished. A minor outpost, lightly defended. It will attack there next. The Arbiter understood. Bait. They were using a Covenant colony as bait to lure the demon into a trap. Pragmatic, if ruthless. I will not fail, the Arbiter vowed. You will not, Truth agreed. Because failure is death, and death will turn you into its servant. So you will succeed, Arbiter, or you will ensure your corpse is completely destroyed. The Arbiter felt cold certainty settle into his heart. A suicide mission then, but one that served purpose. I depart immediately. The forest moon of Heian orbited a gas giant in contested space. Technically Covenant territory, but far enough from High Charity that UNSC raids occurred frequently. Its Sangheili population numbered barely 3,000. Mostly farmers and artisans who tended sacred groves and maintained Forerunner shrines. The Arbiter arrived with a single stealth corvette and 200 warriors. Veterans all. Volunteers who understood they likely wouldn't return. Jin-Woo arrived 6 hours later with 4 captured Covenant cruisers and 10,000 shadow soldiers. The battle began at dawn. Jin-Woo didn't bother with subtlety. His shadow fleet entered orbit directly above the moon's primary settlement. Weapons powered but not firing. His shadow army deployed via drop pods, modified Covenant equipment operated by dead Covenant soldiers. It was psychological warfare as much as military assault. The Arbiter watched from the tree line as shadows poured into the settlement. He'd positioned his warriors carefully. Ambush points, kill zones, prepared fallback positions. Let the demon come to him. Let it think victory was certain. Jin-Woo walked through the settlement streets, shadows flowing around him like living darkness. Civilian Sangheili fled into their homes. His tactical mind noted the abandoned positions, the too perfect evacuation, the defensive preparations that suggested military expertise. Trap. Obviously, he kept walking anyway. The Arbiter struck from above, dropping from a tree canopy with his energy sword burning white-hot. The blade carved toward Jin-Woo's neck, a perfect killing strike, decades of training compressed into one moment. Jin-Woo caught the blade between his daggers, twisted and threw the Arbiter through a building wall. The battle was joined. Even the Arbiter's warriors opened fire from concealed positions, plasma, needler rounds, fuel rod cannons. Jin-Woo's shadow army responded instantly, returning fire with captured weapons. The settlement became a kill zone, both sides fighting with lethal efficiency. But the Arbiter was different from other Covenant warriors Jin-Woo had faced. Faster, smarter, more experienced. He used terrain tactically, ambushed from unexpected angles, coordinated his remaining warriors with expert precision. When Jin-Woo's shadows closed in, the Arbiter would disengage, set traps, force Jin-Woo to fight on his terms. They dueled through burning streets and sacred groves, energy sword against glowing daggers, neither gaining lasting advantage. The Arbiter's skill was extraordinary, easily S-rank by Jin-Woo's old world standards. He moved like water. He struck like lightning, defended with perfect economy. Jin-Woo found himself actually enjoying the fight. Then the Arbiter made his mistake. He committed fully to a strike pattern, believing he'd found an opening. Jin-Woo let him believe it, accepting a shallow cut across his ribs in exchange for position. Then he moved at full speed, not the measured pace he'd maintained, but the true velocity of a Monarch-tier combatant. 3 strikes. The first shattered the Arbiter's shields, the second disarmed him. The third put a dagger through his chest. The Arbiter slumped, purple blood pooling beneath ancient armor. His warriors, seeing their commander fall, threw down their weapons in despair, not surrender but religious horror. They'd failed. The demon had won. Jin-Woo extracted them all. The Arbiter rose as a shadow, his silver-gold armor rendered in perfect darkness, energy sword still ignited. His tactical mind remained intact, his combat skill preserved, his free will completely erased. Jin-Woo looked at his new commander, an elite warrior who'd pushed him harder than any Covenant soldier before. "You fought well," Jin-Woo said, knowing the Shadow couldn't truly hear or respond. "You'll fight better for me." On High Charity, alarms screamed as monitoring stations lost contact with Heian. The Prophet of Truth watched his tactical display go dark, one settlement after another falling silent. "The Arbiter?" he demanded. "No transmission," his aide reported. "But Covenant IFF codes just activated on the Forest Moon, 400 strong. They're attacking our evacuation ships." Truth's aged face went very still. The demon had turned their Arbiter. "Issue new edict," Truth commanded, his voice carrying religious fury and cold political calculation. "The Defiler is no longer merely a target. It is now the Covenant's primary threat. All fleets are to engage on sight. All warriors who face it are to fight to total annihilation. No retreat, no capture. And if any Sangheili falls to its corruption..." He paused, mandibles twitching. "Burn the corpses. Leave nothing for it to raise." The order went out across the Covenant Empire. Jin-Woo had just been declared the greatest heresy in 3,000 years of holy war. 6 months after harvest, Jin-Woo's shadow fleet numbered 47 ships. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, a captured KAS-class assault carrier he'd renamed Silent Legion, watching tactical displays that showed Covenant fleet movements across the outer colonies. His shadow crew worked in perfect silence. Shadow shipmasters calculating slipspace coordinates. Shadow elites monitoring weapon systems. Shadow grunts maintaining plasma conduits. An entire capital ship crewed by the dead. Admiral Cole's intelligence had proven invaluable. ONI tracked Covenant movements, identified targets, predicted attack patterns. In exchange, Jin-Woo's shadow fleet had saved 4 colonies, captured dozens of ships, and killed, then conscripted tens of thousands of Covenant soldiers. His shadow army now numbered 53,000. "Incoming transmission," Shadow Shipmaster Thel reported in his echoing voice. "UNSC encryption, Admiral Cole." Jin-Woo nodded. Cole's hologram flickered into existence. The Admiral looked exhausted, aged 10 years in 6 months. "War did that." "Mr. Sung," Cole said, "we've got a situation." "Another colony under attack?" "Reach." Jin-Woo went very still. Even he'd learned Reach's significance. Humanity's largest military installation, second only to Earth. Hundreds of orbital platforms, repair facilities, training bases. If Reach fell, the UNSC's industrial capacity would be crippled. "How many ships?" "At least 300 Covenant vessels, maybe more. They're still arriving via slipspace. Fleet masters, carriers, assault ships. This isn't a raid, Mr. Sung, it's a full invasion force." Cole's expression was grim. "We're mobilizing everything we have, but we're outnumbered 3-1. I'm not asking you to take orders, but if you have any interest in keeping humanity alive, we could use your fleet." Jin-Woo studied the tactical data Cole transmitted. 300 Covenant ships. His 47 wouldn't tip the balance. Shadow crewed or not, he didn't have the firepower to match a fleet that size. Unless... "I'm not coming to fight defensively," Jin-Woo said slowly, his tactical mind racing. Your UNSC forces engage normally, hold the orbitals, protect the ground installations. Then what? I'm boarding their capital ships mid-battle. Every carrier I capture, every assault ship I take, I turn immediately on the rest of their fleet. I won't just fight the Covenant, Admiral. I'll make their fleet kill itself. Cole stared. That's insane. You'd be coordinating ship captures during active fleet engagement, managing shadow crews across dozens of vessels, conducting boarding operations while under fire from all sides. I've done more complicated things, Jin-Woo said simply. Reach won't fall. Not today. He cut the transmission and turned to his Shadow Command crew. Prepare the fleet for combat insertion. I want boarding teams on every ship. Prioritize the carriers and heavy cruisers. Once we're in system, we don't stop. Every ship we take joins the assault immediately. We're going to hit them like a plague. His Shadow Arbiter stepped forward, energy sword igniting. The former elite warrior now commanded Jin-Woo's Special Operations Forces. Shadow Zealots, Shadow Spec Ops Elites, Shadow ODSTs he'd collected from battlefields. The perfect strike force. My shadows stand ready, the Arbiter's voice echoed. Shall we demonstrate why the Covenant fears darkness? Jin-Woo smiled coldly. Let's show them what their dead can do. The Battle of Reach had been raging for 3 hours when the Silent Legion dropped out of slipspace. The orbital space around Reach was hell. Hundreds of ships exchanged fire at point-blank range, MAC rounds punching through Covenant shields, plasma torpedoes melting UNSC frigates, nuclear ordnance detonating in brilliant flowers of destruction. Debris clouds made navigation treacherous. Escape pods tumbled through vacuum, ships died every minute. Jin-Woo's Shadow Fleet emerged directly into the center of the Covenant formation. All ships, he commanded across shadow-linked communications. Begin boarding operations, prioritize carriers, Shadow Arbiter, and you have tactical command. Acknowledged. The Silent Legion accelerated toward the nearest CAS-class carrier, Solemn Penance, flagship of a Covenant fleet master. Jin-Woo's ship took fire from 3 directions, shields flaring under plasma bombardment. He ignored it. His shadow crew compensated automatically, rerouting power, angling shields, returning fire with captured plasma batteries. Jin-Woo himself launched from the ship's hangar in a single-man pod. The vacuum didn't bother him anymore. He'd adapted, his system compensating for environmental hazards that would kill normal humans. He crossed the distance between ships in 90 seconds, shadows flowing around him like a cloak, daggers ready. He hit the Solemn Penance at full speed, carving through hull plating. He breaching into a cargo bay where Covenant warriors prepared for ground assault. They turned to face him, weapons raising. Jin-Woo blurred through their formation like death itself. 47 Covenant soldiers died in 30 seconds. Jin-Woo raised them all, sent them spreading through the ship and moved toward the bridge. Behind him, his shadow army expanded like cancer, converting every defender they killed, growing stronger with each deck conquered. The fleet master died with an energy sword through his chest, screaming about demons and heresy. Jin-Woo raised him, placed him at the ship's helm, and ordered the Solemn Penance to target other Covenant vessels. The massive carrier's plasma batteries swiveled, locked onto a Covenant destroyer and fired. The destroyer's shields collapsed. UNSC frigates swarmed it, EMAC rounds tearing through its exposed hull. It died in a cascade of secondary explosions. Jin-Woo moved to the next ship, and the next, and the next. Across the battle space, his shadow fleet executed the same tactic. 47 ships became 50, 50 became 60. Each captured vessel immediately turned its weapons on former allies. The Covenant fleet, expecting a defensive battle against the UNSC, suddenly faced internal collapse, their own ships firing on them. Their own warriors raised as shadows, boarding friendly vessels, their dead becoming weapons against the living. Panic spread through the Covenant formation. Ships broke ranks. Shipmasters ordered retreat. Some tried to ram shadow-controlled vessels rather than let them be used against the fleet. The disciplined Covenant assault devolved into chaos. On Reach's surface, UNSC commanders watched orbital displays with disbelief. "The Covenant fleet is down, breaking apart," a tactical officer reported. "Fratricide across multiple vessels, IFF codes fluctuating, sir. I think the Ghost is up there." They'd started calling Jin-Woo the Ghost after Harvest, the specter that turned Covenant strength into weakness, the shadow that grew stronger with every battle. Admiral Cole stood in the command center watching the impossible happen. Reach was supposed to fall today. Every projection said so. The Covenant had committed overwhelming force, and the UNSC simply didn't have the ships to stop them. But Jin-Woo hadn't fought with ships. He'd fought with corpses. The battle lasted 7 more hours. When it ended, 147 Covenant vessels had been destroyed or captured. Jin-Woo's shadow fleet now numbered 93 ships, nearly twice what he'd arrived with. His shadow army had grown to 82,000 soldiers, including 17 fleet masters, 43 shipmasters, and hundreds of special operations elites. The Covenant fleet retreated in complete disarray, abandoning equipment, leaving stranded ground forces fleeing in panic. Reach survived. Jin-Woo stood on the bridge of his flagship surrounded by shadow commanders, studying tactical displays that showed his captured fleet. "Status?" he asked his shadow arbiter. "All vessels secured. Shadow crews operational. Casualties 0. New acquisitions 46 capital ships, various classes. We are combat ready." Jin-Woo nodded slowly. He was building something unprecedented. A fleet crewed entirely by the dead. Growing stronger with every engagement, requiring no logistics, no morale maintenance, no political management. Just victory or death, which led to more victory. His system chimed. Quest complete, conquer. New quest, supremacy. Objective, defeat Covenant leadership. Reward. Jin-Woo studied the new objective thoughtfully. The Covenant leadership, their prophets, their high council, their holy city, the source of this genocidal war. "Set course," he ordered his shadow crew. "I want intelligence on Covenant command structure, location of their leadership, access routes to their holy city." If he wanted to end this war, he needed to cut off the head. And if the head became his shadow, the Covenant would destroy itself from within. Arcadia was supposed to be a peaceful colony, agricultural world, light industrial base, minimal military presence. The kind of planet that fell quickly when the Covenant found it. Jin-Woo arrived 3 hours after the invasion began, his shadow fleet dropping from slipspace with 93 capital ships. Standard deployment, shadow boarding teams, rapid ship capture, turn Covenant strength against itself. But Arcadia was different. The planet's surface held Forerunner ruins, ancient structures buried beneath farmland, recently excavated by civilian archaeologists. Structures that Jin-Woo's sensors flagged as active, pulsing with energy signatures his system registered as familiar. Similar to his shadow dimension. Similar to the dimensional rupture that brought him here. Jin-Woo deployed to the surface personally, in leaving his shadow arbiter to command the orbital battle. He landed near the primary excavation site, a massive dome half buried in jungle, its surface covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Forerunner architecture, ancient beyond human comprehension. His shadows poured from his position, securing the perimeter. Dead elites, dead Marines he'd collected, dead Covenant specialists. They spread through the ruins, checking for threats. Jin-Woo entered the dome alone. The interior was vast, cathedral-like, lit by panels that had glowed for 100,000 years. In the center, a platform held something that made his system scream warnings. A containment field, spherical, roughly 2 meters in diameter. And inside, "Greetings, Reclaimer." Jin-Woo's daggers materialized instantly, and the voice came from everywhere and nowhere, artificial but carrying weight, authority, age. A hologram flickered into existence above the platform, humanoid, geometric, glowing cyan. "I am 2401 Penitent Tangent, Monitor of Installation 05. The construct studied Jin-Woo with what might have been curiosity. "You are unexpected. Your dimensional signature is anomalous. You do not match Forerunner genetic markers, yet you manipulate fundamental forces in ways that parallel precursor architecture." Jin-Woo kept his daggers ready. "What are you?" "I am an ancilla, artificial intelligence, created by the Forerunners to maintain their installations. This facility is a research outpost, designed to study dimensional boundaries and prevent logic plague contamination." The monitor drifted closer. "You should not exist. On your power, this shadow extraction, it resembles precursor neural physics. The ability to manipulate death itself, to bind consciousness to your will, to transcend conventional causality." The monitor's eye flickered. "Tell me, anomaly, are you the Flood's newest evolution?" "I don't know what that means," Jin-Woo said flatly. "I'm not from this universe. I was pulled here. I'm trying to survive. By raising the dead." The monitor's tone carried something that might have been disapproval. "You create an army that cannot truly die, that grows with each battle, that requires no conventional resources. Do you understand what you are building?" The Flood began similarly. A parasite that turned victims into soldiers, that grew exponentially, that consumed entire civilizations. Jin-Woo felt cold certainty settle into his chest. "I'm not a parasite. My shadows are tools. They don't spread independently. They don't corrupt others. Yet," the monitor drifted in a slow circle, "the Forerunners built the Halo Array for a reason, Reclaimer. Sometimes the only solution to exponential threat is complete annihilation. You register as a potential logic plague vector. My protocols demand containment." The containment field expanded. Jin-Woo moved instantly, but the field moved faster, ancient technology beyond his system's capacity to counter. It wrapped around him like chains of hard light, locking his limbs, suppressing his mana circulation, cutting his connection to his shadow army. "You will remain here," the monitor stated, "until I determine whether you represent an existential threat to this galaxy." Warning klaxons screamed through the facility. "Alert! Covenant forces breaching perimeter. Sangheili combat teams detected unidentified energy signatures." The dome shook. Plasma fire lit the entrance. Jin-Woo's shadow army, responding to his distress, was fighting Covenant forces at the facility's edge. But more concerning, sentinels poured from wall apertures, hundreds of them. Geometric constructs armed with golden beams that sliced through shadow soldiers like paper. His shadows reformed, attacked again, died again. The sentinels didn't stop. "Forerunner security protocols are not designed for mercy," the monitor observed. "Your shadow army will be destroyed, the Covenant will be destroyed, and you will remain contained until—" Jin-Woo stopped listening. He'd been captured before, trapped, contained, and he'd learned something fundamental during his years in dungeons. There was always a way out, always a crack in the system, always a weakness. His system might be suppressed, but it wasn't dead. He focused inward, past the hard light restraints, past the dimensional locks, into the core of what made him different from this universe's inhabitants. His power wasn't technology, it wasn't magic, it was something more fundamental. the ability to impose his will on reality itself. The system had adapted before to new worlds, new rules, new physics. It would adapt now. Emergency override detected. Foreign containment system analyzed. Compatibility 47%, attempting integration. Jin-Woo felt his system interface with the Forerunner hard light, not fighting it but learning from it, understanding its structure, copying its architecture. Integration successful. New skill acquired, hard light manifestation. The containment field shattered. Jin-Woo landed in a crouch, daggers blazing with new energy, not just his original power but Forerunner hard light wrapped around the blades. The monitor recoiled, eye flickering in what might have been shock. Impossible. You adapted to Forerunner technology in real time. That requires... Jin-Woo didn't wait for the explanation. He moved. His shadow army surged forward, now wielding copies of sentinel beams. His system had analyzed and replicated the technology through the captured field. Shadow soldiers carved through sentinels with their own weapons. The tide of battle reversed in seconds. But Jin-Woo didn't destroy the monitor. "You said this facility studies dimensional boundaries," he stated, standing before the construct with daggers ready. "Can it send me home?" The monitor's eye dimmed, calculating. Theoretically, the equipment here can map dimensional coordinates, but it would require massive power input, the kind of energy only available from a halo ring. Jin-Woo finished. His system had been feeding him translated data since he touched the Forerunner network. The array generates enough power to affect galactic-scale physics. Yes, but activating Halo protocols without proper authorization triggers containment measures. The installations were designed to prevent logic plague activation. If you attempt to access Installation 05 systems, the security AI will interpret you as a flood vector and activate local defenses. "Then I need authorization," Jin-Woo said. How do I get it?" The monitor was silent for a long moment. "You don't," it finally said. "The Reclaimers, humans, possess genetic authorization, but activation requires an index, held in each installation's library. The route to the library is guarded by sentinels, security protocols, and fail-safes designed to prevent premature activation." Jin-Woo studied the ancient AI. "You're giving me the path anyway." "Why?" "Because I have monitored this facility for 100,000 years, the monitor said quietly. "And in that time I have watched species rise and fall. Wars consume civilizations and the galaxy teeter on the edge of extinction repeatedly. The Covenant seeks the Halo array, believing it will grant them transcendence. They are wrong. Activation means extinction." The monitor's eye brightened. But you, anomaly that you are, you might actually survive Halo activation. Your dimensional signature exists partially outside conventional space-time. And if the array activates, if the Covenant triggers it believing they've found their great journey, billions will die. "You want me to stop them," Jin-Woo realized. "I want you to be prepared," the monitor corrected. "The Covenant searches for the Halos. They will find Installation 05 eventually. When they do, someone must reach the library first. Someone immune to religious fanaticism. Someone capable of stopping activation." The monitor transmitted coordinates directly into Jin-Woo's system. "Installation 05, Delta Halo. It orbits the gas giant substance in the Colis system. The index is in the library at the installation's center." The monitor paused. "And anomaly? When you reach it, the installation's monitor, my counterpart, 2401 Penitent Tangent, will not be as accommodating as I am. He follows protocols absolutely." Jin-Woo absorbed the information, his tactical mind already planning. "What about sending me home?" Reach the library, acquire index authorization, then we negotiate. The monitor's tone carried something that might have been amusement. After all, what value is returning home if this galaxy destroys itself in your absence? Outside, the battle raged. Jin-Woo's shadow fleet was systematically capturing Covenant vessels. His shadow army had defeated both Covenant ground forces and Forerunner security. Arcadia would survive, but the larger war had just revealed itself. The Covenant wasn't just trying to exterminate humanity. They were searching for ancient superweapons that could sterilize all life in the galaxy. And Jin-Woo, dimensional anomaly, shadow commander, ghost that walked between realities, might be the only thing capable of stopping them. The Arbiter, not Jin-Woo's shadow commander, but a new one, the third in Covenant history to bear the title during this war, knelt before the Prophet of Truth aboard High Charity. This Arbiter had been Fleet Master Voro Mantacree before his disgrace. He'd lost an entire battle group to the Defiler's shadow fleet at Circumstance. 24 ships turned against him, their crews dead and razed, firing on vessels they'd served aboard for years. The shame had been unbearable. Death would be a mercy. "Rise, Arbiter," Truth commanded. Voro stood, feeling the weight of ancient armor settle across his shoulders, the same armor that 2 previous Arbiters had worn. Both had failed to kill the Defiler. Both had become shadows themselves, serving the enemy they'd been sent to destroy. He would not fail. "The Defiler grows stronger," Truth continued, his aged voice carrying weight that transcended physical presence. 147 ships now. Perhaps more. An army numbering in the hundreds of thousands. Every battle makes it more powerful. Every warrior who falls against it becomes its servant. Then sending me to fight it directly is suicide, Holy Hierarch, Voro said bluntly. Arbiters could speak truth that others couldn't. They had nothing left to lose. "Yes," Truth agreed simply, "which is why you will not fight it directly." The Prophet's gravity throne drifted forward. "The Defiler seeks something. Our intelligence suggests it visited the Forerunner research facility on Arcadia, interfaced with ancient AI-acquired coordinates. We believe it now knows the location of Installation 05. Voro's hearts clenched. Installation 05, Delta Halo, the sacred ring, in gateway to the Great Journey. If the Defiler reached it first. "You think it seeks to activate the array," Voro said slowly. "I think it seeks to prevent activation," Truth corrected. "The Forerunner AI would have warned it, told it the array's true purpose. The Defiler is many things, but it is not suicidal. It will try to secure the installation, deny us access, possibly destroy the activation mechanisms. Then why send me? Why not a fleet?" Truth's expression was unreadable. "Because I need someone who can succeed where fleets fail. Someone who can reach the library before the Defiler does. Someone who can activate the array and trap it in the blast radius." Voro understood immediately. "You want me to trigger Halo's firing sequence while the Defiler is on the ring. You use the array as a weapon against a single target. The array will sterilize all sentient life in range," Truth said calmly. "The Defiler's shadow army consists of dead tissue animated by its power. Dead tissue that may not register as life by Forerunner sensors. But the Defiler itself, it lives, and Halo will kill it. Along with every Covenant warrior on the installation," Voro pointed out. "Along with myself. Yes." Truth's tone carried no apology. "This is why you are Arbiter. Your death serves the Covenant. Your sacrifice prevents the Defiler from spreading. And Installation 05's activation will be instructive. It will teach us how the array functions, where its power originates, how to control it properly for the true Great Journey." Voro felt cold certainty settle into his chest. Truth was lying, and the prophet had no intention of using Halo for transcendence. He wanted to study it, weaponize it, use it for political control. But an arbiter's duty wasn't to question, it was to die with purpose. "I will need a fleet," Voro said. "Ships, warriors, time to reach Installation 05 before the Defiler. You will have a stealth corvette and 50 special operations elites," Truth said. "More would alert the Defiler. You must reach the library quietly, acquire the index, begin activation sequence. When the Defiler arrives to stop you, you trigger the array. And if the Defiler doesn't come, it will." Truth's certainty was absolute. It seeks the array's power for dimensional manipulation. It must reach the library. And when it does, you will kill it, even if you must sacrifice the entire installation to do so. Voro bowed deeply. I understand, Holy Hierarch. I will not fail." "No," Truth agreed on, "you won't. Because this time, failure means permanent extinction for both you and the Defiler." The stealth corvette Shadow of Intent dropped from slipspace at the edge of the coalesced system 3 days later. Installation 05 hung in space like a massive bracelet around the gas giant substance. 318 kilometers in diameter, rotating slowly, its surface a mix of artificial structures and natural terrain. Beautiful, ancient, deadly. "Scan for Covenant forces," Voro commanded. "Negative contacts," his tactical officer reported. "The installation appears dormant. Forerunner automated defenses are active but not engaging. No sign of the Defiler's shadow fleet." Good. They'd arrived first. Voro assembled his 50 elites, all spec ops, all veterans, all volunteers who understood this was a one-way mission. They checked plasma rifles, energy swords, active camouflage systems, professional, silent, ready to die. "The library is at the installation center," Voro briefed them. "We will land at the nearest transport facility, use Forerunner gravity lifts to reach the underground passages, and proceed directly to the index chamber. Expect sentinels. Expect security protocols. Expect the Defiler to arrive before we complete activation." "And our orders when it does?" one elite asked. "Hold the library until I trigger the array, even if it costs everything." They understood. No one flinched. The corvette descended toward the ring. The library was a nightmare of geometric passages, shifting platforms, and sentinel patrols. Voro's team fought through 3 security checkpoints, losing 7 elites to golden beams that vaporized shields and flesh equally. But they reached the index chamber, a vast room centered on a single pedestal holding a small, glowing device. The activation index. Key to Installation 05's firing sequence. Voro approached it carefully, his religious training warring with tactical necessity. This was holy, the literal key to the great journey. But Truth had commanded activation for military purposes, not spiritual ones. He grasped the index. Alarms screamed through the installation. A hologram materialized, geometric, cyan, identical to the monitor Jin-Woo had encountered on Arcadia, but with different behavioral patterns. "I am 2401 Penitent Tangent Monitor of Installation 05. You have removed the index without proper authorization. This is in direct violation of containment protocols. Please replace the index immediately or I will be forced to..." Voro shot the hologram projector. The monitor's image flickered, reformed from a different emitter. "Hostile action detected. Initiating emergency security measures. All Sentinel wings responding." The walls opened. Hundreds of Sentinels poured into the chamber. Voro's elites formed a defensive perimeter, plasma fire filling the air. But there were too many Sentinels, their beams too precise, their numbers effectively infinite. "Fall back to the activation chamber," Voro commanded, running toward the installation's core systems with the index clutched in one hand, his energy sword in the other. They fought through passage after passage, elites dying to buy seconds. 30 soldiers became 20, 20 became 12. Voro reached the activation terminal, a massive Forerunner console covered in glyphs and touch panels, with 7 elites remaining. He inserted the index. The terminal lit up, geometric patterns racing across its surface. A countdown initiated. 200 seconds to full array activation. "Hold this position," Voro ordered. "Let nothing through." His remaining elites formed a wall of shields and swords at the chamber's entrance. Sentinels hammered against them, golden beams cutting down warriors who refused to retreat. Voro watched the countdown. 150 seconds. The Defiler would arrive. It had to, and when it did, the chamber wall exploded inward. Jin-Woo stepped through the breach, surrounded by shadow soldiers, daggers glowing with hard light enhancement. His eyes found Voro immediately. "You step away from the terminal," Jin-Woo said in perfect Sangheili, his system translating. "This installation can't activate. Too many people die if it does." Voro activated his energy sword. "You don't understand, Defiler. This is the only way to stop you. Your shadow army grows without limit. Eventually you'll consume everything, Covenant, human, all sentient life. The array is the only weapon that can kill you." Jin-Woo's expression didn't change. "I'm not trying to conquer the galaxy, I'm trying to go home." "Then you'll die trying," Voro charged. The duel lasted 40 seconds. Voro was skilled. Arbiter class equal to the Shadow Commander Jin-Woo had raised months ago. But Jin-Woo had been fighting Covenant warriors for half a year now. He knew their patterns, their techniques, their weaknesses. More importantly, he was fighting to save lives, not religious ideology. Jin-Woo's dagger found Voro's throat on the 41st second. The Arbiter fell, purple blood spreading across ancient Forerunner floor panels. Jin-Woo reached for the terminal. The countdown hit 0. Installation 05 activated. The ring sang. That was the only way Jin-Woo could describe it. A pulse of energy that radiated outward from Installation 05's core, spreading through the superstructure at light speed. His system screamed warnings, detecting fundamental reality manipulation, physics-breaking energy patterns, dimensional harmonics that would sterilize all complex life within 7 light years. The Halo array was firing. Jin-Woo ran toward the terminal, his shadow army flooding the activation chamber. He needed to stop it, shut it down, find the off switch before... "I'm afraid it's too late for that, Reclaimer." 2401 Penitent Tangent's hologram materialized, observing Jin-Woo with what might have been academic interest. Installation 05 requires approximately 4 minutes to reach full firing capacity. Once initiated, the sequence cannot be interrupted without index authorization, which you do not possess. In 4 minutes, all sentient life within this installation's range will be eliminated. Jin-Woo stared at the countdown. 3 minutes 47 seconds. "Can my shadows survive?" "Unknown. Your shadow army consists of dead tissue animated by extra-dimensional energy. Halo's firing pattern targets neural structures, specifically complex nervous systems capable of sustaining the Flood's logic plague. Dead tissue may not register as valid targets." The monitor paused. "You, however, definitely will. Your brain, your consciousness, your dimensional anchor all qualify as sentient life." 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Jin-Woo's mind raced. His shadow army might survive, but he wouldn't. And without him, the shadows would fade, return to death. He'd cease functioning, collapse into nothing. Unless... "Can I become a shadow?" Jin-Woo asked suddenly. "Extract my own consciousness, bind it to my dead body, exist as my own shadow soldier?" The monitor's eye flickered genuine surprise. That is theoretically possible. Your power already manipulates the boundary between life and death. Self-extraction would require dying, then raising yourself in the microseconds before consciousness fully dissipates. But the process is untested. Failure would result in true death, and success would mean existing as undead. No biological functions, no natural healing, consciousness bound to animated tissue. 3 minutes. I've been dead before, Jin-Woo said quietly, remembering his first dungeon, his first system quest, the moment he'd been reborn as a player. Death is just another threshold to cross. He turned to his shadow arbiter, the original one, Thel Vadami, his most capable commander. If this works, I'll need a second to raise myself before my consciousness fades. You understand the extraction process. You've watched me do it thousands of times. The shadow commander nodded silently, energy sword ready. Jin-Woo opened his system interface, navigating to functions he'd never tested, combinations of skills he'd never attempted. Warning, proposed action carries extreme risk. Self-extraction. Probability 23%. Failure will result in permanent death. Proceed. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Jin-Woo looked at the countdown, at the ring that was about to sterilize 7 light-years of space, at the war he'd been dragged into through no choice of his own. He'd survived dungeons, monarchs, dimensional rifts. He'd built an army from nothing, turned the tide of an interstellar war, become something this universe had never seen before. He could survive this too. Yes. Jin-Woo raised his dagger to his own throat. Do it, he commanded the Shadow Arbiter. The energy sword pierced his heart before he could change his mind. Pain, darkness, the sensation of falling through infinite space. His system flickered, error messages cascading, core functions shutting down one by one. Then, awareness. Jin-Woo's consciousness existed in that liminal space between life and death, the boundary his power had always manipulated. He could feel his body dying, cells shutting down, neural pathways collapsing. And he reached out, not to another corpse, to his own. Extraction, self. Target, Sung Jin-Woo to processing. His system resisted, and this wasn't how extraction worked. It required a defeated enemy, a target killed in combat, a foreign will to be overwritten and bound. But Jin-Woo's will had never been foreign to himself. He forced the extraction, using every ounce of power he'd accumulated, every skill he'd mastered, every level he'd gained. His consciousness grabbed onto his dying body like a drowning man clutching driftwood. Error, invalid target, override attempted, override, successful. Extraction complete. Black smoke erupted from Jin-Woo's corpse. The shadow rose, mirroring his form perfectly. Black hair, black armor, glowing eyes, daggers that drank light. But different, fundamentally changed. No heartbeat, no breathing. Just consciousness bound to dead tissue through pure force of will. Shadow Jin-Woo opened his eyes. 1 minute, 40 seconds. He turned to his original body, now an empty shell, killed by his own hand, blood pooling beneath it. The Shadow Arbiter stepped back, energy sword still burning. It worked, the Shadow Commander's voice echoed. You exist. Different, Jin-Woo's new voice carried harmonics that weren't quite human, but alive, or something like it. The countdown continued. 1 minute, 15 seconds. Jin-Woo, now a shadow himself, reached for the terminal. His system flickered, adapting to his new state, recalibrating functions, compensating for undead physiology. Status update. Entity type, Shadow Sovereign. Biological functions none. Consciousness stable. Power level unchanged. New ability unlocked. Absolute command. absolute command, the ability to control death itself, not as a living being manipulating shadows, but as death incarnate commanding its domain. Jin-Woo pressed his hand against the terminal. The Forerunner technology resisted. He had no index authorization, no genetic clearance, no reclaimer status. But he was no longer alive, no longer quite real. His dimensional signature had shifted, becoming something between existence and void. And Halo's protocols didn't know how to classify him. Anomaly detected. Entity classification, unknown. Reclaimer status, undefined. Error, unable to process. The terminal flickered. The countdown stuttered. Jin-Woo pushed harder, his absolute command forcing reality to bend. He wasn't asking the installation to stop. He was commanding death itself to cease its work. The Halo array was designed to kill. Jin-Woo was death, and death did not kill its own sovereign. And the countdown froze at 47 seconds. The installation's firing sequence collapsed, energy dispersing harmlessly into the ring's structural supports. The pulse that would have sterilized 7 light years faded like a dying scream. Installation 05 fell silent. Jin-Woo stood before the terminal, his shadow form flickering slightly, his consciousness adjusting to existence without biology. Behind him, his shadow army waited, hundreds of thousands strong now, including the newly raised shadow arbiter Voro Manta Kree. The monitor materialized, studying Jin-Woo with what might have been awe. Remarkable. You killed yourself, raised yourself as a shadow, then used your new state to circumvent Halo's firing protocols by existing outside its targeting parameters. The monitor's eye brightened. You are no longer alive, no longer dead. It is something unprecedented. The Forerunners never anticipated this. Jin-Woo looked at his hands, shadow formed, glowing faintly, no longer flesh but something more. He'd crossed a threshold he couldn't uncross. Given up biological existence to survive the array's firing. Can you still send me home? Jin-Woo asked quietly. The monitor was silent for a long moment. Unknown. Your dimensional signature has changed. You exist partially outside conventional reality now. Attempting dimensional transit might destabilize your consciousness completely. The monitor paused. But there is another option. Tell me. The Ark, Installation 00. The facility where all Halo installations were constructed. It exists outside the galaxy, beyond the array's firing range, in a shielded pocket dimension. In the equipment there can manipulate dimensional boundaries far more precisely than anything in this galaxy. The monitor transmitted coordinates. Reach the Ark, access its control room. The technology there might allow you to return home, or at least understand why you were brought here. Jin-Woo absorbed the information, his tactical mind already planning. The Ark, another ancient installation, another risk, but also the only path forward. How do I reach it? You'll need a Forerunner artifact called a portal generator. The Covenant has been searching for one. They believe it leads to the Great Journey. They're partially correct. It leads to the Ark, and from the Ark, potentially, elsewhere. Jin-Woo turned to his shadow army, hundreds of thousands strong spread across 93 ships commanded by dozens of elite warriors. He'd become what the Covenant feared most, a living shadow, a death that couldn't die, a force that grew stronger with every battle. And now, finally, he had a path forward. Where's the portal generator? Jin-Woo asked. The monitor's response made him go still. Earth, buried beneath the human city called Voi, Kenya. The Covenant doesn't know yet, but they're searching, and when they find it, they'll invade Earth, Jin-Woo finished. The final battle, the ultimate escalation. Everything converging on humanity's homeworld. Jin-Woo looked at his shadow army, at the power he'd accumulated, at the war he'd been dragged into. He'd never asked for this, never wanted to fight someone else's battles, but he was here now, changed, different, powerful. And Earth, the last major human world, was about to face the full weight of the Covenant Armada. "Gather the fleet," Jin-Woo commanded his shadow commanders. "Set course for Earth. We end this war, one way or another." Earth burned, not completely, not yet. But Covenant forces had breached the orbital defense grid, landed ground forces in East Africa, and begun excavating the artifact they'd spent years searching for. The portal generator, gateway to the Ark, their promised great journey. UNSC forces fought desperately, but they were losing. 300 Covenant ships hammered Earth's defenses. Orbital platforms died one by one. Ground forces retreated toward fortified positions. Evacuation protocols activated for civilian populations who had nowhere to run. This was extinction's edge. Then the Shadow Fleet arrived. 93 Covenant capital ships dropped from slipspace. But they weren't attacking Earth. They were attacking the Covenant invasion fleet. Plasma batteries lighting up ships, broadcasting proper IFF codes. A boarding craft launching toward vessels that had spent months preparing for this assault. On Earth's surface, UNSC commanders watched orbital displays with disbelief. Covenant ships engaging Covenant targets, a tactical officer reported. Fratricide across the entire formation. "Sir, it's the Ghost. It has to be." Admiral Lord Terrence Hood stood in the command center, watching the impossible battle unfold. He'd heard the reports, the Shadow Fleet, the undead army, the human who'd turned the tide at Reach. But seeing it was different. "Get me a direct line to that fleet," Hood ordered. "Whoever's commanding those ships, I want to talk to them." The communication channel opened, static, then a voice, young, male, carrying harmonics that weren't quite human anymore. "This is Sung Jin-Woo. I assume you're UNSC Command." "Admiral Hood, UNSC Navy. Mr. Sung, we're grateful for the assistance, but I need to know, what's your objective here?" "The portal generator beneath Voy," Jin-Woo said bluntly. "The Covenant is trying to activate it. I need to reach it first." "Why?" "Because it's my way home. And because if the Covenant activates it, they'll access the Ark, a facility capable of rebuilding the Halo array. They'll have unlimited extinction weapons." Hood felt cold certainty settle into his chest. "What do you need?" "Keep the Covenant ground forces busy. I'm going directly to the portal site with my Shadow Army. We'll secure the facility, hold it until activation, then use it to reach the Ark." "And after that?" Silence on the line. "After that, I stop existing as your problem," Jin-Woo finally said. "I'll either go home or I'll die trying. Either way, the Covenant loses their portal. Earth survives." Hood studied the tactical display. Jin-Woo's Shadow Fleet was systematically capturing Covenant vessels, the same tactic that had worked at Reach but on a larger scale. Every captured ship turned immediately on its former allies. The Covenant formation was collapsing into chaos. "Coordinate with our ground forces," Hood ordered. "I'll clear you a path to Voy, but Mr. Sung..." He paused. "Thank you for everything you've done. Reach, Arcadia, all of it. Humanity owes you a debt we can't repay." "You don't owe me anything," Jin-Woo said quietly. "I was just trying to survive. Everything else happened." The channel closed. Jin-Woo landed in Voy with 10,000 shadow soldiers. The city had been evacuated, but Covenant forces occupied every street, every building, every defensive position. Elites in gold armor, hunters in bonded pairs, grunts in massive formations, all protecting the excavation site where Forerunner machinery hummed with ancient power. Jin-Woo walked through the center of it, untouched. His shadow army flowed around him like a tide, Shadow elites wielding energy swords, shadow hunters firing fuel rod cannons, shadow grunts throwing plasma grenades. But these weren't just random soldiers anymore. They were his most elite forces, commanders and champions collected from a dozen major battles. Shadow Arbiter Thel Vadami led the vanguard. Shadow Arbiter Voro Manticree commanded the flanks. Shadow Fleet Masters coordinated orbital support from captured cruisers. The Covenant defenders broke within minutes. A Jin-Woo descended into the excavation site, a massive pit where human archaeologists had uncovered Forerunner architecture. At the center, a platform covered in geometric patterns humming with energy that made his system pulse in recognition. The portal generator. A Covenant prophet stood before it, the prophet of truth himself, flanked by brute bodyguards, gesturing frantically as engineers worked to activate the ancient machinery. Truth saw Jin-Woo approaching, and his expression twisted with religious fury. "Demon! Defiler! You will not stop the great journey. The Forerunners promised us ascension, and we will..." Jin-Woo killed the brutes in 4 strikes. Truth scrambled backward, his gravity throne rising. But Jin-Woo caught it with enhanced strength, pulled it down, and met the prophet's eyes. "Your great journey is a lie," Jin-Woo said flatly. "The halos don't transcend, they kill. I've stood in Installation 05's control room. I've spoken to the monitors. Your religion is genocide dressed as salvation." "Lies! Heresy! The Forerunners!" Jin-Woo drove his dagger through Truth's chest. The prophet slumped, purple blood staining ancient robes. His breathing rattled. His eyes held shock, denial, fury. "Rise!" Jin-Woo commanded. Prophet of Truth defeated. Extract shadow. The shadow prophet rose, his form rendered in perfect darkness, gravity throne and all. Jin-Woo studied the shadow commander, the leader of the Covenant, now his servant. The religious authority that had driven this genocidal war now bound to his will. "Broadcast to all Covenant forces," Jin-Woo ordered. "Tell them the great journey was a lie. Tell them to stand down. Tell them the war is over." Shadow Truth obeyed without question, his voice echoing across Covenant communication channels. The effect was immediate. Covenant forces across Earth's surface hesitated. Ships stopped firing. Ground troops lowered weapons. Some fled. Some fought to the death rather than accept the heresy, but most simply stopped. Their prophet, their leader, their religious authority had spoken the ultimate blasphemy. The great journey was false. The Covenant didn't shatter. It would take time for the full political collapse, but it fractured, broke, lost cohesion. Jin-Woo turned to the portal generator, his shadow form resonating with its dimensional harmonics. The machinery activated. Space tore open above Voy, a massive portal swirling with energy, stable and ancient and powerful. Through it, Jin-Woo could sense the Ark, a facility beyond the galaxy, a place where dimensional boundaries could be manipulated, his path home or his grave. "All shadow forces," Jin-Woo commanded across his network. "Withdraw to captured ships. Prepare for portal transit." His shadow army obeyed, flowing back from battle lines, boarding Covenant vessels forming up in orbit. 93 capital ships, hundreds of thousands of shadow soldiers, all awaiting their sovereign's command. Jin-Woo stood at the portal's edge, feeling its pull. Behind him, Earth's defenders watched from fortified positions. Admiral Hood's voice came through local comms. "Mr. Sung, what happens now?" Jin-Woo looked back at the planet he'd helped save, at the war he'd changed, at the people he'd never truly known but had fought beside anyway. "Now I go home," he said quietly. Or I don't. Either way, the Covenant is broken, truth is dead. The portal will close behind me, Earth survives. Will we see you again?" Jin-Woo considered the question. He was no longer alive, no longer dead. Something between, something unprecedented, something that existed because he'd refused to accept any boundary as final. "I don't know," he admitted. "But if I find a way back, I'll make sure it's to help, not to conquer." He stepped into the portal. His shadow fleet followed. The portal collapsed behind them, sealing shut, leaving Earth's orbit quiet for the first time in months. The arc was vast beyond comprehension. Jin-Woo emerged onto a structure larger than any Halo installation. A factory world that had built superweapons, maintained the array, preserved Forerunner knowledge for 100,000 years. And at its center, a control room. Jin-Woo approached it with his shadow commanders, his army spreading across the arc's surface, securing the facility. The control room doors opened automatically, recognizing his dimensional signature. Neither alive nor dead, neither reclaimer nor construct. Inside, holographic displays showed dimensional mapping beyond anything his system had encountered, transit coordinates, reality barriers, the fundamental architecture of existence itself. And one display, pulsing softly, showed a pathway back to his world, back to Seoul, back to the war he'd been fighting before something dragged him here. Jin-Woo's hand hovered over the activation panel. He could go home, leave this war behind, return to his world, his people, his life. But he'd changed, become something different, and given up biological existence to survive. His dimensional signature might not even fit his original universe anymore. And behind him, his shadow army waited. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers, former enemies turned eternal servants. What happened to them if he left? Did they fade, collapse, cease to exist? Jin-Woo made his decision. He activated the portal, but not to his homeworld, to Installation 05, to 2401 Penitent Tangent, to the monitor who'd offered him information. The hologram appeared instantly. "Anomaly. You reached the arc." "I'm going home," Jin-Woo said, "but I need to know. What happens to my shadow army when I leave?" The monitor calculated. "Unknown. Your shadows exist as extensions of your will. Remove the will and they likely collapse. But you exist in a unique state now. A part of your consciousness exists dimensionally separate from conventional reality. You might be able to anchor them. Leave a fragment of yourself behind, maintain their existence even across dimensional boundaries." Jin-Woo felt his system pulse, adapting to the suggestion, calculating possibilities. New ability possible. Dimensional anchor. Cost. Permanent reduction in power. Effect. Shadow army persists independently. Warning. Irreversible. He could leave part of himself here. A fragment of his power, his consciousness, his will. Enough to maintain the shadow army, to ensure they continued existing, protecting this galaxy even after he was gone. It would weaken him permanently, divide his power across two realities, but it would also mean his shadows wouldn't simply collapse. They'd remain, fight, protect. He'd continue the mission he'd started. Jin-Woo looked at his shadow arbiter, Thel Vadami, the first Covenant warrior he'd raised, his most loyal commander. "If I leave," Jin-Woo said, "can you lead them? Keep them fighting to protect this galaxy? Stop threats like the Flood, the Covenant remnants, whatever comes next?" The Shadow Commander's glowing eyes met his. "We are your will made manifest," Thel's voice echoed. "If you command us to remain, we remain. If you command us to protect, we protect. We do not question, we do not falter, we are eternal." Jin-Woo nodded slowly. He activated the dimensional anchor. Pain, not physical but fundamental, as part of his consciousness, split off. Embedded itself in the shadow army, became the core that would maintain their existence. His system recalibrated, power dropping by 30%, but stabilizing. Dimensional anchor established, the shadow army status independent. Connection maintained across realities. Jin-Woo felt the change. His shadows no longer required his direct presence. They existed on their own now, guided by the fragment of will he'd left behind, commanded by the Shadow Arbiter, eternal and unstoppable. "Protect this galaxy," Jin-Woo ordered. "Fight threats, save lives, don't conquer, don't expand unnecessarily, just be what I couldn't stay to be." His shadow army knelt as one, hundreds of thousands of warriors across 93 ships acknowledging their final command. Jin-Woo turned to the portal home. He stepped through and vanished from the Halo universe, leaving behind an army of shadows that would guard the galaxy for centuries to come. Years later, historians would debate what truly happened during the Human Covenant War's final phase. They would argue about the Ghost, the Shadow Sovereign who appeared from nowhere, turned the tide at reach, shattered the Covenant's religious authority, and vanished as mysteriously as he'd arrived. Some claimed he was a forerunner failsafe, activated when humanity faced extinction. Others believed he was an Oni Black Project, a super soldier program that succeeded beyond all projections. The truth, that he'd been a dimensional refugee from another universe entirely, never entered official records. But the Shadow Fleet remained. 93 Covenant capital ships crewed by the dead, commanded by shadow versions of the Covenant's greatest warriors. They patrolled the galaxy's edges, responded to distress signals, eliminated flood outbreaks, and hunted Covenant remnants who refused to accept the war's end. They never spoke beyond tactical necessity, never explained their origins, never asked for payment or recognition. They simply appeared when needed, fought with perfect efficiency, and vanished when the threat was neutralized. The UNSC eventually designated them friendly unknowns, allies whose motives remained mysterious but whose actions consistently protected human interests. The Sangheili who'd broken from the Covenant called them Shadows of Redemption. Warriors granted second chances through service after death. The created AI network, when it rose years later, attempted to suborn the Shadow Fleet. The attempt failed catastrophically. The Shadows were commanded by a will that existed partially outside reality itself. No conventional AI could override it. And on Earth, even in the archives beneath UNSC High Command, one file remained sealed under Admiral Hood's personal encryption. Subject: Sung Jin-Woo, classification: Cosmic Top Secret status, Dimensional Refugee, Return to Origin Universe. Legacy: Shadow Fleet, active, autonomous, friendly. Note from Admiral Hood: if you're reading this, you're probably trying to understand what the hell the Shadow Fleet is and whether we can control it. Short answer: we can't. Long answer: we don't need to. Sung Jin-Woo gave humanity a gift, an eternal defense force that asks nothing in return. My advice: don't question it. Don't try to weaponize it. Don't attempt contact unless absolutely necessary. Just be grateful that when that dimensional rift opened, it brought us a guardian instead of another enemy. And if Sung ever finds his way back, we owe him more than gratitude. We owe him remembrance, the man who became death to save us all. The file closed. The shadows continued their eternal watch. And somewhere, in another universe, Sung Jin-Woo stood in Seoul's ruins, his system recalibrating to his home reality. 30% weaker than he'd left, but alive, or close enough to it, ready to finish the war he'd been fighting before the Halo universe pulled him away. Behind him, in a reality he'd never see again, his shadow army protected a galaxy that would never fully understand what he'd sacrificed to save it. Death's sovereign had returned home, but Death's legion remained, eternal, unstoppable, forever guarding against the darkness.